everyone, this is the fifth part to how we're going to implement this simple dialogue system into Unity. I've decided, because this is my second take of this video, that I'm going to have one more video that just talks nothing but editor theory with you guys. So with that being said, I've created a test file, and I've already filled it with some code, and I'm going to walk you through it now. So let's go ahead and open that up. So first things first, we need to have our using statement for our namespace up here so we can have access to the conversation and everything else. So what we're going to do is create a conversation outside of the awake function, because we're going to use it in the start function, and we need to have it, not in the awake function to do that. So then we're going to assign it in the awake function by saying conv, which is conversation, equals new conversation. We don't need to apply any parameters because it doesn't take any parameters. This just creates the database or the dictionary. You technically don't need it here, but you will for sure need it before this point, because you can't add entries to it without the conversation. And if you didn't know that, you're probably a beginner. If you're a beginner, I'm sorry, I didn't know that you were going to be watching these videos. I should have explained it in part one that you're going to need to know a little bit about coding beforehand. So yeah, I just realized that was a real mess up, and I don't want to go back and fix it. But either way, moving forward, we are creating entries. So I decided to go 3 deep with the entries. Yes, there are 5 entries, but it's only 3 deep because it's A, B, C, but there's 2 paths it can take. So if you're unfamiliar with what I meant earlier by a linear conversation, this is not a linear conversation. This could be a binary tree conversation. You could have it set up as such, but I didn't set up the conversation as a binary tree because I don't plan on ever using it as just a binary tree. I want this to fit as many situations as possible, so I don't have to be limited or restricted in any way, and I'm not. But in this case, yes, it is a binary tree. So with that being said, it's only 3 deep because it goes A to yes, B to yes, C, or A to no B to no C. So it only goes down, 1, 2, 3. So I created the entries. It's going to start off with saying, hey, does 4 equal 3? And if it does equal 3, or 4 does equal 3, it's going to say yes. That is a very true statement. And then the original guy is going to say, wow, thanks. I'm glad I'm right some of the times. I'm glad too, guy. I'm really glad you are. I'm sorry, guys. It's really early in the morning, and I get a little weird early in the morning. Well, late at night, technically, when I don't sleep. So either way, entry B, no, will say, no, it's hard to imagine people let you out in public, which is kind of funny because, he's crazy. Either way, and then the other one is, I find it to be quite offensive. Yeah, I find you to be quite offensive. I'm sorry. Yeah, so he's calling the guy offensive. So at this point, you need to do this before you add links, because you don't know what the IDs are yet. So with that being said, entry A is going to be 0, entry B yes is going to be 1, and entry C yes is going to be 2. I decided to have the yeses follow the entry as far as order goes, 1, 2. But then I have the no's following after that. This really doesn't matter much, actually at all. This order would still work if I had it like this, if I had this down here. Now it's all out of whack, but it would still work because it doesn't need to be ordered. It just needs to be unique as far as the IDs go. And that's going to be important once you get down to the add links. And yeah, so let's just go ahead and go on to the add links. Again, I'm going to explain nothing but editor theory in the next video, because this can be very, very simplified. Creating the editor isn't simple, but it could be making all of this simpler. So entry A needs 2 links, because at entry A, after entry A, it can either go left with yes or no with right. So it's going to create a link to ID 1, which is entry B yes, or ID 3, which is entry B no. So it needs to go to the entry B's. And then it's going to set entry 1 to have the highest priority. So when these get sorted, it's going to put 1 before 3. And because we put this one first, it's going to do that anyway. But if it were like this, now it's going to, once it hits that sort method, go to this. So it's always going to make sure that the highest priority is first at this point. Well, actually not at this point, once it gets ran, but you get my point. Like, even though there's two links here, it's always going to put one first because of this statement right here. This one's going to have by default priority normal. So if you change this to lowest, this is actually going to go below this. So keep it high, guys. Okay. So then entry B, yes, would be the next place to add a link, because entry B, yes, would be the next, drop down. So entry B, yes, is going to go to 2, which is entry C, yes. And then entry C, yes, isn't going to have any links because it's actually considered a leaf if you go with tree talk. It doesn't have any, children. It just kind of stops there. And that's exactly how this whole thing's going to run too. It's just going to stop. Okay, so then you also need to add a condition to B. So technically, if you want to go in order, the condition always comes before the link, because the condition gets checked when you're on entry A, trying to determine whether you can go to B or not. That's why you have the high priority thing. But it doesn't really matter at this point, because we're, putting all this code before we even test it, so it doesn't really matter. But either way, the condition that gets added to B, there's only one condition, and it's going to be an inequality condition with 4 and 3. How ironic that we use the same exact values and even have the word equal in there for an equality condition. And then the other one is going to be entry B going to entry C, so it adds the link to 4, which is entry C now. So all of that should be, well ingrained in your brain on how it actually works. It's pretty simple. Okay, so then the private void start is the next thing we need to talk about. This is your traditional loop over a tree kind of thing. Not really for a tree. This isn't what you would use for a tree. This is just one way to loop through all of the entries, and maybe we'll talk about that in the editor video later. Okay, so what you're doing is going to get the current entry and set it to the root, which is entry A, so ID 0. And then you're going to say, while the current entry, which is this, entry A, does not equal null, type its text and then set it to equal the next value, which again, it's going to check if the condition is true, and if it is, then it's going to go to entry B yes. If it's not, then it's going to go to entry B no, because entry B no doesn't have any conditions, so therefore it's always true. So it's like a default entry. So let's go ahead and test that with 4 equal to 3. And again, it's going to be debug logs, so you're going to see it down here. Hey, does 4 equal 3? No, it's hard to imagine people let you out in public. I find you to be quite offensive. Yeah, I find you to be quite offensive too, dude. Okay. Let's go ahead and test the other case to make sure that I'm not crazy and this actually does work. So entry C, or entry, whatever, 3 is equal to 3. I don't know why I said entry C. Sorry, guys. Okay. Hey, does 3 equal to 3? Yes, that is a very true statement. Wow, thanks. I'm glad I'm right some of the time. Alright, so as you can see, it does work. And if you had a whole bunch of other conditions, you can throw them in there too. If you want, you can test a whole bunch of different things where he says, hey, does 3 equal 3? No, that's crazy. Okay. Or does 4 equal 3? No, that's crazy. Okay, does 3 equal 3? Yes, it does. And then you can, yeah. Alright, whatever. So that's the end of this video. I'll go ahead and talk about editor theory on how we might actually create an editor, just in case you guys want to see that and not actually watch me how to do an editor. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and end the video here.